I have had situation. I haven't had a situation in the past where I went to meet a white girl's parents, and it had that. Did you tell him I'm black? And it's like, no.
What?
Why? And I was like,
you didn't tell him. Like, how do you?
How do you not tell?
Like,
him?
how does somebody not tell him?
Yeah.
Like, what was she thinking?
I don't know. Or I think maybe she was lying to me, like to try and be like, oh, it's not a damn thing in my family. It's not even a thing. And then, I went there, and they didn't react at all in any sort of negative way,
right.
And that in a way ended up feeling more creepy because I knew that wasn't the way the world works,
right?
And so maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe she did tell them, so they had their buffer. But all in all, that state of being someone, where you're questioning what you're sometimes there's somebody saying some racist shit, and like maybe you miss it, and then you think back and you go, oh, that was some racist shit. Other times you're like ready for some racist shit, it doesn't come. It's a very it all adds to what makes being part of this marginalized group unsettling in many situations.
I mean, but that's what it is though. Like, I remember comparing the things that I saw even before like race became such a sexy issue. I'm talking about like 10 or 15 years ago when I would go through shit and I was like, yo, was that racist? Was that racist? And I started feeling like the kid in that movie The Sixth Sense. Mm-hmm. But instead of seeing dead people, I see race where nobody else sees race.
That's
but
right.
That's this extra sensitivity that we build. We see race when nobody else sees race.
Yeah. And that's why, I wanted to use that sixth sense, so to speak, in this movie to say these characters, they're figuring it out. Slowly but surely they're aware and have this ability, this black spidey sense.
Yes.
That's going on. So I wanted to use that in the movie.
Being biracial, do you remember your first racist experience?
I remember feeling I was stopped by a police officer once.
How old were you?
I must have been like 10, 11, young. And just I had that feeling. He came up to me. He was like, somebody, can I see your pockets? He was looking for somebody who was like throwing darts in the subway because there was a little
dart throwing incident.
There's a little dart throwing incident, and I just remember feeling so this is awful.
Right.
Like I felt guilty, like I had done something wrong.
Which is fucked up to go through it at the age of 10.
Yeah. That was so that was one that fucked me up. I had another incident where someone, another kid in the playground called me the N-word, said asked me why I talk white. Another thing is like totally disorienting, made me like question my identity. What am I supposed to be talking like? And then especially when you're young, the N-word cuts
to the bone.
Deep.
Yeah.
I mean, it still does, but at a certain point, you grow up. It's like, all right, well, you gotta. If that's where they're at, then that's where they're at. I can't let somebody who's trying to disrupt my soul have that power. So people who are proudly and overtly racist. My defense mechanism is tune that shit out.
Right.
I can't even deal. That's why this movie is not about like the typical crowd who would be called typical white people who would be called racist, like the red state type. It's about the liberal elite and like peeling back the layers, showing why race is where it is under the surface, even of those people who think that they're not.
Yeah. You specifically targeted the liberal elite. Like you specifically, like I read that was your specific target, and the purpose is.
The purpose is that is the first of all better horror movie, right? You get the people who these people are we're good. This is as good as it's going to get.
They're good, genteel.
They're hip. They're cool. They may be a little clumsy with racial, but it's not like they're they're not racist in a real racist way.
Right.
But then to just show how these interactions, these little, whatever you want to call them, microaggressions or whatever, how they are reminders that no, race is here. Race never left.
Never left.
Yeah.
Might have been taking a little nap, but it's awake now, man.
It took a nap. It wasn't, but it's like the nap it took was like it wasn't cool. It wasn't cool to talk about it. Like people was like, if you talk about race, you are perpetuating race.
And I used to get that a lot here on the show.
Yeah.
About 6 years ago, it's like, why do you keep talking about white privilege? It's like, because I have to. Like my generation doesn't believe in white privilege. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Yeah. And then boom, everything blows up. I'm like, where are y'all now? Like, why don't y'all believe us?
Yeah.
When we tell you this.
It's such a frustrating thing, and it goes to this whole phenomenon of people, really, that we're seeing now, especially in the Trump administration, of people pissing on your leg and telling you it's raining.
Yeah.
No pee-pee joke intended with Trump. But the whole thing of like when you can see what's in front of your eyes and it's there, it's part of your experience, and people tell you no, there is no
alternate facts.
Yeah, people telling you alternate facts and trying to pull some Jedi mind tricks. It's extremely frustrating, and it hurts all of our growth to stop conversation like that, to stop expression.
Of course.
Yeah.
You talk about this being the first quote unquote woke horror movie. What was your process, your personal process in becoming woke?
My personal process with becoming woke was, probably. I think part of the process was, figuring out what to say with Key and Peele, and I think I really got woke when all of a sudden racism and the notion of racism was we were in denial. So I think around this time we're talking about.
What do you mean denial? Like,
well, just the post-racial thing, right?
So society as a whole, right?
Society was all of a sudden saying, oh, okay, now race is done. I think I've always been woke to an extent in that I've known about racism, but not woke to the extent of like, okay, my job on this planet is to communicate racism, that racism exists. I need to my responsibility creatively is to address this thing. So that's this horror movie as well. It's really similar timing with when we made Key and Peele, and remember the first Luther Obama sketch. The whole point of that was like, Obama had to be very cordial. They couldn't do the angry black man thing, because it felt like couldn't. He couldn't cut loose. He couldn't cut loose. He couldn't take a moment and be like, "Black people, where are you at?" He couldn't do it. And he was just he was the subject of like this massive disrespect from Trump.
Yeah.
From the Tea Party people coming up talking about you lie, at his press conference or whatever, and so we wanted that sketch to be an expression of like, fuck y'all. This is this is happening. This is race. I don't care what you say. This president can't express himself because of racism. Yeah. And what it would be, he would be perceived as being if he did it. So this all kind of happened at the same time. I think Obama coming into his presidency, to me it was a great moment, but it was also a moment that set the conversation back a little bit.
It shifted things.
Yeah, it shifted
things. It set the conversation back, but the good thing about it is the reaction, like that internal reaction, like to the true people across this nation that don't know that they're racist. They just know that something inside of them Obama's presence, his excellence, his brilliance, it didn't feel good to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what we're seeing right now, which is ultimately, isn't that the pathology of racism?
I mean, look, it's like we elected the dude who we all agree lied to us.
Wait, who's we? Hold up.
Yeah, I mean
that ain't my president. That's your president?
No, I thought. Look, this dude. Yeah, no, not we. Yeah,
Yo, please.
You know, I try and use we because I want to get this country. You know, and look, I also believe racism. It's not a one-way street.
Yes.
It's we all have a piece of this. We all have to own what we have done. But yes, what they did, what they know is that, you know, this dude, you know, for what 4 or 5 years, talking about Obama's not from this country, just lying. I have proof. I have evidence. Lying. One of the most racist things I've ever witnessed in this country.
Insulting. It's
so insulting, and that's why, I mean, you get even if you were to get past all the other, you know, shit that he does, that Trump does and says, and all the hate that he inspired. Look, he lost me that first second when he attacked Obama like that. Now, he came out last year talking about it's not true. He's from this. And then that was it. Like, no, motherfucker, that's not it. You can't. It's no mistake that he was able to build his fan base on the foundation of that lie.
Right.
I mean, that's his entry into politics, was lying to us.
Yes, and he's still lying to us.
Us.
Now, what was your introduction to horror?
So my introduction to horror was, you know, certainly Nightmare on Elm Street. Candyman, The Shining.
At what age did you see The Shining, man?
Too young.
Now, let me ask you a question. I don't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I saw The Shining twice. Like, I had heard, like, you know, like Kubrick, this was the scariest movie, and I saw it like in high school. I was like, this is stupid.
Oh, see.
And then I saw it like maybe 10 years later. And I was like, yo, this is the scariest shit I've ever seen.
You know, I had a similar experience with that. I think I got real scared young once. Saw it maybe a little later and was kind of like, oh, it's nothing really, not a lot kind of happens.
Yeah.
Next time I saw it, I realized, you know, I just couldn't sleep for a week.
It's that subtle.
The beauty of that food, it's like, you know, there's one jump scare in that movie. When Jack, you know, kills Scatman Carruthers.
Yes.
In that movie. The rest of it is all like creepy imagery. It's slow burn. It's just like it's like that's the
it creeps into your psyche.
Creeps in your psyche.
Yeah.
You walk out of your bathroom, you see those little girls at the end of your own hallway. It's like, oh no. Yeah, that movie is like a master class in like how to creep along in a horror movie.
Isn't it difficult though? I would imagine. Isn't horror one of the hardest things to create, because you have to time it well, you have to build that suspense. I mean, because I've seen so many horror movies that were not scary, or that had no effect on me. Yeah. So I would imagine it's really difficult.
It is, you know. I think that's where my comedy experience played in, because that you get so much. You know, when you're crafting a joke or a bit, you know, the whole thing is like, okay, what is the audience thinking? What are they feeling at this moment? Okay, now we got to get this laugh at the same time. But it's all timing. So basically, you know, I kind of took that and applied it to this different tone, to the horror film, the horror tone, and like anything that was too funny or jokey, it's like you got to kind of like shave that off, but. It is tough, but very linked to comedy.
But I'm sure you've had some comedic reflexes that you had to kind of tame for this movie, because the movie is actually very funny.
Yeah,
it's not this American Werewolf in London funny, but it is. There's the funny moments are really funny.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, there was. You know, anything that came off like a joke. I had to lose it.
Right, like give us an example. Without giving the audience any spoilers.
You know, it's hard to think. It's hard to think on my toes about what they would have been. But like, if any kind of wordplay or something that look. I mean, the character that's like the funniest character is this guy Rod,
yes,
played by Little Rel Howard.
Yes,
and he just crushes.
He's a breakout star.
He's a breakout,
yeah.
And part of the reason he's so funny is because it's actually a relief from the tension of the movie, and it's a relief in terms of you have somebody who's saying what the audiences wish somebody would say in a horror movie,
right?
And so he's actually more realistic than what you usually see in a horror movie. He's the dude he's talking about Chris. Get out.
Hey, brother, what you doing, man?
What you doing?
This white girl got you all open like that.
That's right. And that a big part of this movie for me was like, I feel like black horror movie audiences, we're a loyal fan base. We love horror. I feel like the groups that deal with real life horrors and oppression and the shit like that. Like we need to go to the theater and scream and like get out this frustration. So this movie was like, I was trying to represent that audience that we consistently show up. We don't get representation.
Underserved.
Yeah, underserved, and not only our skin, but our perspective,
our perspective,
our point of view, and the fact that the main character and his friend Rod in this, that they are black, it actually gives them, their blackness is what they use to sort of help figure out what's going on.
Propel the movie, and yeah, like you said.
And that's like when you're talking about Night of the Living Dead, it feels the same. It felt like the protagonist of that movie, it's like he was extra prepared.
Was it Dwayne Jones?
Dwayne Jones,
yes.
Who played the lead in that movie. Who, of course, the young boy in The Walking Dead is named Dwayne Jones.
Yes.
After him, but it feel like he was more prepared for this crisis because he's living in fear, in a certain extent, all his life. So he's when this hits when the shit hits the fan in that movie, you got a white woman in this house who's like doesn't know what to do, doesn't know why this
fainting,
black dude's here, and like the chaos is breaking loose. He's all business. He's ready to tackle it, and of course Romero maintains like I just cast the best actor for the role.
I don't believe that.
I don't believe.
I don't believe that. We're talking about a movie that was filmed at the height of the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
Where the only black protagonist you saw on film was Sidney Poitier or Harry Belafonte. You definitely weren't seeing any blacks in horror. And here's this guy that's not only black, but he's the captain of this shit.
Yeah, and the fact that he's black makes the film special. What it is, it makes it what it is. I don't want to give away the ending, but the ending has of that movie has a very powerful.
It's a lynching.
It's a lynching.
It's a lynching.
Yeah, so yeah, I kind of think that's like the politically correct way for Romero to have phrased it at the time.
Right.
Is like, it's just, I'm not casting him because he's black, I'm casting him because he's the best actor for the role, and he is amazing. But that movie is a social horror film.
Yes.
Yeah.
I find that out of all the horrors like the J and the K, and I love the stuff that's coming out of France and Germany just fucked up with their horror. But
yep.
I found that the ones that resonate the most to me are the ones that lack the supernatural element. The ones that really delve into shit that can really happen. The dude up the block, the guy around the corner, or society. Although my favorite subgenre is the zombie genre. Like just how 28 Days Later was like, they're not undead, they're just infected.
It's a virus.
And now it's like, it's really real right now. You know what I mean? And so you do that in this movie. You're like, we're not. There are certain aspects, but this is about race.
You believe. It's over the top. Obviously, I make some bold choices in it, but you believe in secret societies.
Yes.
You believe that there are people out there who have been born into a privilege and a world you're not included in, and you believe that they got enough money that they can do whatever they want. They can get away with whatever they want. Like that is true.
We're living in a horror movie right now.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Like this is a horror movie.
We're living in a horror movie. The black experience. Even the first scene of the movie. Where I have a black man walking down.
Homeboy from Atlanta.
Yeah, Lakeith Stanfield is.
He's amazing, man.
He's amazing, and he. I wanted to put the entire audience, give them an idea of what it feels like, the fear of being a black man in a white suburban neighborhood. Because I don't think people realize that you know that's horrifying to think. Okay, I'm in this situation. I'm gonna be viewed as the monster here.
Right.
I'm gonna get lynched or something.
Right.
I'm gonna get, I could get shot. I don't know. I gotta get through here as soon as possible.
I can't enjoy the scenery, bro.
Yeah, I can't enjoy the scenery. Just get me out. Get me out. And like, I wanted the audience to start with that feeling, so they know that it's a horror. There are times where being black in America is a horror movie.
This is every day. There's at least a moment on a daily basis where it's like, at least this shit ain't comfortable, bro.
Yeah, somebody says something creepy, or even that whole the creepy thing of in the party scene in this movie, the whole this white dude's coming up to him and being like, I love Tiger Woods. So like in the script I wrote like they're approaching him like hyenas or vampires or something. Just like they're too eager to connect with him
or connect with his blackness.
Right. And that feeling of like disorienting feeling of like, okay, so now I'm black before I'm anything else to these people. Like they're trying to be nice, they're trying to be cool, they're trying to get olive branch, but I'm having a different form of the same conversation with every single person here.
Right.
That's another thing where I don't think people realize that's part of the black experience.
Yeah.
I actually started maybe 8 years ago or so, working on this script. Working on the idea for this script.
So was Barack in office yet or not?
So Barack was just coming into office when I first had the idea. The whole, presidency was spent making this movie about, people saying we're in a post-race America, right? And so this was like, no, black people, we know that's not true. So let's show why it's not true. And that was the whole point of the movie. By the time I was writing this actual script, I guess probably 2.5 years ago, the Trayvon murder happened, and so all of a sudden we got a little bit more woke, and it just became that. That's when I added that first scene. I realized, okay, you know what? There's something horrible here, and that feeling of fear in the wrong neighborhood is something that people need to experience.
Now, other than, I would imagine, your success in television, how do you get a movie like this greenlit in Hollywood? This is one of those rare movies where white people are not the best people in the movie, man. Like, the only good people in the movie, for the most part, are people of color. How do you get this greenlit? When you hear about, Hollywood being this gatekeeper as to what the audience is really wanting, anything off the beaten path, particularly when it comes to culture or race, people don't want to see it, quote unquote.
This was I legitimately thought this would never get made.
Right.
I wrote it to write my favorite movie that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So once I had that, I went out. I was at a general meeting. This guy Sean McKittrick at QC Entertainment, and I sat down. I said, "Look, this is a movie that no one will ever make because it's too fucked up. But I'm going to tell it to you because it kind of shows where my brain is at with the genre."
Right.
And at the end of that meeting, he was like, "Let's make it. Let's do it." And I was like,
"Are you sure?"
Are you sure? He's like, how this movie ends, for example. Right? It's like, so every step I'm just kind of like watching, like, and I think it was like, it's a good movie. So I think the quality of it just helped me break through those barriers. A little bit of trust, but we're definitely, something happened when Compton came out that definitely changed everything.
Right.
I think, we were one of the myths that was, perpetuating this lack of representation in Hollywood was this myth that like black leads in movies or black perspective in movies can't sell overseas, doesn't make money.
Right.
Which is not true. I mean, the truth is we haven't been nurturing black talent. We haven't been telling people there's a place for you to make this film. Like, I mean, I'm on TV. If I didn't feel like I could get this film made, you can imagine any young black filmmaker or aspiring director must feel hopeless. So when that movie hit, I think that changed a lot. and now all of a sudden, Hollywood has woken up to the fact that, like, yes, good content works. Wherever it goes, good content works.
Right.
We just have to nurture good content creators. We have to give them an opportunity, and part of that is getting representation in the first place to say, look, if you believe in your vision, you make it good, and you work hard. Yeah, you can.
I mean, look at Hidden Figures.
Look at Hidden Figures. We're in a renaissance right now, man. Yeah. In the beginning stages, I believe, of this renaissance. You got Ava DuVernay, you got in TV, it's like what Donald's doing with Atlanta is just outrageously elevated. Insecure.
It's amazing.
Issa's amazing, and what you're finding now that the floodgates have opened, and it's not the same old type of film or TV show that was previously thought was acceptable for a black audience.
Right.
This is more intellectual, like elevated,
more nuanced.
Nuanced. It's our point of view. It's real artists are getting the opportunities. So it's a great time to me making movies, to be black and aspiring to make content.
Now what makes me uncomfortable is you hear this hashtag this year, Oscars So Black. You're seeing this renaissance in black film, but growing up in the 70s, there was like a lot of black content, not just black exploitation, but there was a lot of black content on television and on Hollywood, and that kind of went away. Then we kind of saw a resurgence of that in the 80s, and then that kind of went away. Yeah. And in the 90s, so my main fear is, like, once again, like, this is not something new. It's not the first time Hollywood is realizing that the black box office is valuable. But what I hate is, like, we do it, we prove it, and then it disappears again.
And there's not a commitment to making content with a black point of view that's not exclusively black content. That's been hard to come about itself. I mean, obviously something like Roots came and changed the game in its own way, but it feels like we kind of, as a culture, we got stuck in the slave narrative story, of which, by the way, this is in some ways about slavery.
Yes,
this movie, but I think what happens a lot of time with these slave stories is it's a safe way to deal with race.
Okay? It's in the past.
It's in the past. You can be white and watch one of these things.
None of us are accountable for what's going on.
Exactly. Can you imagine how awful they used to be? So there's, I wanted to make a movie that dealt with really modern slavery, which is why, I think one of the central points of this movie, what it's a metaphor for, is the disproportionate incarceration of black men.
Right.
Which, of course, Ava DuVernay is amazing.
13.
It's just it translates why slavery never went away.